Hi, Dr. E.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. I mean, you were the one of for the first people that I wanted to see when I went to Music and Sky. And then, of course, I had to talk to you because I just want to pick your brain.
Or hearts.
So let me start with your bio. Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan is a consciousness and human potential coach, a holistic Chinese medicine doctor, author, speaker, and mama of two luminous kids. Dr. Edith's professional background includes over 38,000 hours of private coaching and healing sessions given, 23 years of experience in human potential, personal growth, and transformational leadership. What shapes her lenses and perspectives? 23 years of deep meditation practice, 11-day darkroom retreat, multidimensional travel and mystical experiences, background in math and engineering, conscious conception, natural holistic home birth, homeschooling two children while running two businesses. She is the best-selling author of Super Wellness, featuring Forward by Wim Hof. She is also the creator of Luminous Education Revolution, comprehensive vision for a new paradigm of education. She holds a doctoral degree from Five Branches University in endocrinology and neuromuscular medicine, a 4-year graduate degree from American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and a bachelor's with magna cum laude in applied mathematics from Harvard University. Formative years at Phillips Exeter Academy. Through her coaching and retreats, Dr. Edith empowers visionary wayshowers to master their energy and life so that they can lead and serve at the highest levels. Wow, Dr. E, that's pretty impressive.
I was like, can you read that to my mom or something? Like, that's pretty,
Forever Chinese.
yeah, yeah. My
Oh
my
man.
hardworking Chinese immigrant parents would be proud at this point, although they were not always proud because I was always choosing these unconventional things, and
Right.
it's just,
Like what you're
it's,
doing now. If you
yeah,
were to have
it's
like completely given up your medicine practice and gone to this, they would have just like thrown up their hands.
well, they threw up their hands when I um went into my Chinese medicine practice. Yeah, because I was in technology and software before that, just
Right.
right after undergrad, and that you're going to give all of that up, a high-paying job after graduate from an Ivy League university, and go become some hippie healer. And then later, when we decided we wanted to have children. You're like, you're doing what? You're gonna do a home birth, and now you're not gonna put them in school? What? They've just given up. They've given up.
Yep. Yep, definitely. Same. Same. I
Yeah.
have the same
And
issue.
somehow they can see that we are healthy and happy and doing well. So you can't argue with that.
Right. Right. Happiness is so important, especially I feel like now the conversations that I have with my father, is like, you know, the key to success is happiness. It doesn't have anything to do with money. I'm like, thank you. 40 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, I really wanted to bring you on because I know that we both have big missions and they all revolve around children. So Perfect Child's mission is to change the paradigm of childhood such that children are met by the adults surrounding them with reverence and a curiosity to learn from them. And I feel like your mission with Luminous Education Revolution is to change the paradigm of education for children. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's education and parenting both, because once you tug at one, the whole thing, and really it becomes a conversation about what is it to be a human being. So this was what I noticed that I kind of bumbled along. I bumbled into this topic, to be honest, because how it started for us was that we weren't sure we were going to have children, and
Mhm.
let's see, back in 2013, I came back from that 11-day darkroom meditation retreat, and I thought, wow, so many beautiful gifts from this retreat that heightened my meditative experiences. So when I came back to San Francisco, I discovered that I was so sensitive to energies. I could hear and feel all of my neighbors' thoughts, and all this kind of stuff was happening to me that I told my partner, I said, I can't tolerate living in the city anymore. During the day, working with Chinese medicine clients, it was very helpful because I could sense into I could intuit what was going on medically with people very quickly. But at night, I needed to just be in the countryside. So we moved an hour plus outside San Francisco. And this seems like a tangent answer to your question, but I promise you it's related. So when we moved to Sebastopol, California, which is this beautiful country town,
Mhm.
we found this little cottage with about an acre of land around it. So we had fruit trees, we had a garden, and it was very quiet. There was no 5G towers right next to us. And at night, we would turn off our Wi Fi hub, and it was just that energetically it'd be so quiet. And so in my meditation, this little baby started coming in, this little baby that kept talking to me and guiding me. And every night we would go cosmic traveling in my dream time with this baby. And I would tell Dave, and Dave would be like, I don't know about this, you know? And this baby said, I'm ready to have chosen you to be my parents. I'm ready to come in. And we weren't even sure if we wanted to have children at that point. And so Dave was like, la, 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 la. I'm not hearing this. I'm not ready to be a parent. And so every night I would go to sleep like so excited to have this play date with this baby. And it was night after night, week after week, month after month. We would go cosmic traveling, and he would share with me what's happening with mankind, essentially. That there is this huge wave of beautiful luminous beings that are incarnating on the earth to blanket the earth with this new consciousness. And so there was this one particular night where I was laying in bed in this half wake, half dream state. Oh, I was in this half wake, half dream state, and my boy showed up this time as an orb. And he said, Look. And then he showed me this scene of all these basically spirit babies, an ocean of them. And he says, right now, as we speak, there's already this entire web work of us incarnating onto planet Earth right now as we speak. And then he zoomed in, he said, each and every one of these beings, we have scoured the cosmos. And we've chosen that this is the time we want to come to Earth to blanket the Earth with this new energy.
Ah,
And he said, Look, it's a free will universe. You can choose to have children or not. Everyone has that choice, but be conscious of what you're choosing here. And so he tried to impress upon me, he said, each and every one of these beings that you see, and they were these beautiful orbs of light, all connected with these strings and strands of light, a whole ocean, a web work of them that he showed me. He said, each of us have scoured the cosmos, chosen to come to Earth, and chosen our precise moms and dads, and chosen the precise communities and locations that we want to incarnate into. And there is dependencies across the board so that we can do work together as and grow up together, some of us, and be in networks together. So it's very precise how each being chose to be in very specific families and communities and geographic locations and so on. So just so you know that there's dependencies here. So each incarnation is influencing each of the other incarnations. So what you're choosing is not us to be a nuclear family. You're
mhm.
choosing all of this. You're choosing to participate in this entire web work of connections and networks of families and communities. That's what choosing to conceive me means.
So
So no
basically,
pressure
he
or
was like
anything.
giving you, it was like a huge responsibility. It wasn't just birthing a child.
Well, I don't know, like when that happened and I narrated because I was in this half wake, half dream state, and I told Dave, I said, the baby is here again. And so there was kind of like a three-way powwow. I was in that half wake, half dream, I guess kind of a channeling state. So I would
Mhm,
tell him what was going on in my dream. I was just awake enough. I held myself at that state in between wake and sleep. So I
mhm,
told him everything that was going on. And so he had a dialogue with the baby. They had this, it was like a three-way cosmic powwow that we had. And while this was all happening, I experienced my entire system getting an energy upgrade. I could feel palpably sensations happening, like I was getting some kind of an energetic surgery. It was very palpable and undeniable experience, especially my womb space was getting like
mhm.
energetic pulsations and massage during this whole time, and my heart space. And it was just like the most exquisitely beautiful experience, so blissful, so beautiful, and so light. This is how we know truth feels light and free,
Yeah.
and lies feels like constrictive and dense. And this felt like light and free and beautiful. And so I resonated with it. So I'm talking with Dave afterwards, and he's like, wow, well, I don't know. It's a lot of pressure. So shortly after that, he was in a yoga class. He's not a big meditator, but he does yoga to stretch out his body for sports. And in Shavasana pose, at the end of the yoga class, our boy came to him in a dream. So he had his own direct experience. So I'd been having months of this. And then
Mhm.
Dave had this one dream that kind of sealed the deal. And so he was like, this kid's pretty cute. I'll consider it. Yeah.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah. So during that time, the energy of our home was so strong with this future baby that was looming that friends, even other friends, would walk into the house, was like, is there a baby here? It was a very strong experience. And so there's a certain day where we sense the presence of him very strong. And we just looked at each other and said, this is the time. Today's the day. And so he was conceived consciously, knowing that all three of us had agreed that this is the precise moment that he wanted to be conceived. And it was I never read anything like this. I just experienced it from
Unbelievable.
direct, just tuning in. So after the conception, I experienced this like this breathing cycle, this life that was pulsing in my womb space that was so palpable that it was not necessary to take a pregnancy test. I knew, and also I
Mhm.
knew that this was a boy because I'd met him over many months, and yeah, here we are. And he's 9.5 now, and you met him a few weeks ago.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
then your
Just-
daughter, was that
yeah.
the same story? Did she come and visit you before she was consciously concepted as well?
Well, when he was 3.5, he said, hey, I have a sister, right? My sister is still in space. She needs to come to Earth now. And then we were at that time deciding to move a little bit closer back to the suburbs, not like way in the countryside, just because the kids activity is a lot of driving to an art class, to this and that. So we moved back to the suburbs, and our boy said, when we moved our new house, my baby sister is going to be there. So then we moved, and he said, wait, my baby sister's not here. She needs to come. She needs to come now. And so we tuned in, listened for her guidance for when she wanted to be conceived, and also had a similar experience with her. And so, yeah, that's how we ended up with our two luminous kids. And both of them were birthed at home, not because of some theory or philosophy or dogma, but because I just listened to them and said, what would you like? What would you like to eat today? What kind of, I just kept dialoguing with them, and so they guided us into the home birth experience. And so this is my long-winded answer to your first question, which is, how do I get into this topic? I
Right.
stumbled along into it from a meditative state of just deep listening. So in a meditative state, after doing deep meditation practices, I had this heightened awareness and intuition. And so this baby started showing up in dreams. And since then, all of it has been guided by them.
Okay.
The
So
whole
basically,
pregnancy experience. And then when my boy was preschool age, we had put him in a really wonderful holistic preschool. And this preschool was just like, it was organic, it was gluten free, you could be vegan, you could be paleo, and they were indoor and outdoor, lots of nature time, gardening, arts and crafts, kumbaya, all of it. I mean, on paper, it sounded great. And as he got older, he started kicking and screaming, saying that he wouldn't go. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll go with him and just like accompany him a little bit and go there, try to go there early to see what's going on during pickup and drop off time. What I discovered was this: he loved building stuff
mhm,
and he loves music. He loves arts and crafts. He especially loves building stuff though. And so when he was building stuff, they would go, okay, ding, and they would sing this cute song and march over here to the art studio. And then they'd do that for an hour and then ding, and march over here into the music studio. And he would have this like little quizzical look on his face, like, I'm not your slave. Why are you dragging me around on your agenda? I have my own rhythm, my own agenda here. So I could see that that was jarring to his system, and how he expresses it to us
yeah.
at age 4. This was so from 2 years and 9 months old until he was 4, he was in preschool. And then like at age 4, he started having language to say, Mama, I don't want to pee pee and poo poo when they tell, then when teacher says pee pee and poo poo. I want to pee pee and poo poo when my body says pee pee and poo poo. I don't want to eat snacks when they say it's snack time. I want to eat snacks when my body is hungry for snacks. So that was his way, and he would say it to us over and over again, kind of like, but telepathically. The message I got telepathically from the look on his face was, you guys aren't respecting children. You're not respecting that we have an innate rhythm and already an inner curriculum. We're not here to be jerked around into your agenda, you know. So it it woke me up. It woke me up because I at that point I'd had about, a decade and a half of experience in holistic medicine, and
Mhm.
I was writing and teaching classes and, coaching people on their health and wellness. Some people who have very difficult medical conditions who completely healed themselves simply by realigning to their inner guidance system, their intuition, their body awareness, honoring and respecting the body's natural biorhythms, and taking beautiful care of yourself, your health, your well-being by listening to this instead of like following some external so-called experts agenda. So I knew from a health perspective how important that was, but it never occurred to me until my own 4-year-old was like, lady, don't you get it? And I realized that that's how we have a
Oh,
culture of so many of us that have lost that connection.
right.
So here he is saying, I don't need to go through that convoluted path to confine myself again. I don't need to lose myself to find myself.
Right.
That's not what's my path. And I am sensing, kind of like witnessing so many young people today, that that's not that there's a whole generation of these kids that are here to show us that we are sovereign, self-directed, and we command respect from people of all ages. Just because our bodies are little, just because we haven't been on earth for as many years in this lifetime as you have, doesn't mean that we don't deserve the exact same amount of respect that all adults give to each other. And I do have to say, in hindsight, the reason why we were so hesitant to become parents really is also this piece, that I always thought that I was not cut out to be a parent, because I saw either the hippies being super like absentee, like a little bit too wild and free for my sensibilities, or most of the time what I saw was a lot of parenting models that were like, sit down, shut up, like follow your orders and kind of,
Right.
all right, that's it, you're grounded.
Right.
All
Do
this
what
kind
you're
of stuff.
told.
I was like, huh, that looks a lot like dog training or something.
Yeah,
So I thought, well, I guess I'm not cut out to be a parent. And that was my attitude all the way through until when my boy came in through dreams. One of the things he did share was, look, I know you guys feel that you don't resonate with parenthood. That's exactly why I've chosen you, because your concepts of what you don't want is also what I don't want.
right.
But the new way, I cannot tell it to you in a dream or meditation. I need to show it to you by being incarnated in the physical and actually be part of your family. And I will show you through our examples. This
Yeah,
generation of kids, we will show the world through our examples. No dogma, no philosophy. It's like, it's not about what we say, is about how we show up, the essence, the presence, our actions and behaviors. We will show you a whole new way of being human.
yeah,
So take my word for it. Give me an incarnation and I'll show you.
yeah, yeah. And it's been great, right? I mean, I'm sure you have transformed so many families with your luminous education revolution, because what I love most about it is it's educating for actually more for the parents, right? It's like that deprogramming and just kind of understanding how to break free and be free and tune into your child.
Yeah, that is absolutely that's the work, you know. That's the work because our kids they already get it. And it's it takes a lot of courage for those of us that are, and it's such a blessing that we are, first of all, aware that there's old stuff that we can deprogram and let go of. And now in today's world, so many tools and such wonderful support systems, and with podcasts like this, and so many resources that we can avail ourselves to now. So there's really, it's a beautiful time to be here for us to rapidly let go. It does take work to do the inner work, but the good news is, like, by doing that inner work, we free up so much energy and we
Yeah.
access so much more joy and delight and magic and beauty in this life. And I believe we all deserve a magical, beautiful, delightful life that is truly fulfilling. You know, take off the masks that we had put on in the past and just be authentically, joyfully ourselves.
Yeah, it's really liberating to do the work.
Yeah. Liberating,
Yeah.
literally, like freeing ourselves from the tyranny of those old voices and those old models, but it's also liberating a huge amount of energy.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people say, like, Dr. Edith, how old are you? How do you have so much energy? It's like, well, I I don't do a lot of bullshit, basically. And, you know, like there's a lot of things that we kind of square peg and round hole ourselves into old paradigms of education, old paradigms of parenting. That's frankly exhausting. And since I
Exhausting.
don't do that, I have a lot of energy to do the good stuff that I really love, you know?
Right. Yeah, and even just seeing the joy in your child really lights us up, right?
Yeah.
We know we're on the right course when our children are thriving. Your your um your courses are really accessible. You have 3 different tiered pricing, and it's evergreen content, so they can do it in their own time, which is lovely. And you really have interviewed so many activists and pioneers in the childhood space. So I'm wondering, have you found any nuggets to be more impactful or profound from all the pioneers that you've interviewed?
Well, the Luminous Education Revolution journey is really a cohesive journey that we take people through. There's 18 plus sessions because there's some Q&A sessions that are bonus in there too. And with all of these different visionaries and wisdom keepers, that it's hard for me to choose favorites because we take you on a grand journey of self-exploration and self-discovery. No,
Mhm.
and there's a deep amount of reparenting and shedding of old programs and patterns that we explored together. And so I've had actually a number of participants who just love these speakers, and they're like, wow, I'm not a parent, I'm not an educator, but these speakers are world class and so epic. Let me sign up just to explore all of these topics. And many people tell me that it was the most profound reparenting journey they'd ever taken. They were sobbing tears of pure joy and pure love, and sometimes a bit of grief of some of the things that we experienced in our childhood, and realizing that when you were a kid and you said, you know, this is really off how these adults are doing things around here. Doesn't make sense. And those kinds of questioning voices that we had, they weren't honored and respected. It was just like, sit down, shut up, and do your boring workbooks and behave yourself and get in line. And so there's a lot of tears of relief and tears of sadness, and just so it's very emotional for a lot of people to go through the journey to realize, like, yeah, I was right. I was right. As a 4-year-old, I was right. As a 6-year-old, I was right. I saw through the BS. Even at that age, I was right. So if I were to pick a few favorites, I would definitely say Dr. Peter Gray and Dana
Mhm.
Martin's, their 2 sessions are posted for free for anybody to go to the website just to poke around and explore those sessions. Dr. Peter Gray is a pioneer in the space of play-based learning,
Mhm.
bringing play and fun back into not just children's lives, but humanity.
Right.
That having fun and playfulness is a critical, it's not like a luxury, it's a critical ingredient in learning. Like the push hard, tough it out, rote memorization, that's actually not true learning. And in fact, there's a
No.
huge amount of true learning that takes place simply by having lots of fun. So we see such a stressed out population out there that is full of anxiety and depression, and so many aspects that are really tough. Like a lot of people, a lot of families are struggling, and it's sometimes we need a card carrying PhD academic researcher to say, you have permission to go have fun with your life, follow your passion, follow your joys, follow your own self-directed interests. There's no one size fit all anything, but by listening to that impulse of joy
Mhm.
and play, we access a whole octave of genius that we didn't even know existed before. What happens when you have groups of people coming together in a state of joy and delight? What kind of exponential genius effect can we create together in communities and groups? So I highly recommend checking that out. For those of us that are brainiacs, is like, really? I think fun is important. I thought I should be more serious, like that will convince you, like, it's time to lighten up and get the playfulness back in our lives again. And then
Yeah,
Anita
100%.
Martin's work is all about, she was a unschooling pioneer, but she expanded that into the world of parenting, because how we do one thing is how we do everything.
Mhm.
And so she really helped me early in my journey. When my child was just 5, I was like, am I ruining his life by not going to school? Eek, and so she really helped me to stabilize in greater confidence that this intuition I had, that, well, he guided me into the conception. He guided me all throughout this super healthy pregnancy and this magical home birth. And then I didn't know what I was doing, and he just guided me into the co-sleeping and all this intuitive parenting, and that everyone's like, oh, you guys are doing attachment parenting, you're doing this and that, all this stuff that I was like, I don't know what the terminology is. I
Right.
just know that I love my child and I respect him deeply. And
Mhm.
so many people would say, like, respect your child. What do you mean? So Dana Martin is a pioneer in, sometimes they call it radical unschooling, sometimes they
Yeah.
call it peaceful parenting. And so she was a huge mentor of mine early in the journey. to give me a lot more confidence. And she raised all four of her children in this very honoring and respectful way, not only in terms of the school and education part, but the parenting dynamic, to be honoring and respectful of your children as if they're peers, except also in an age appropriate way, is a little
Right.
dance, right? Because they have little bodies that have different developmental needs along the path,
Yeah.
but honoring and respecting their needs, and as a family coming together to find a collaborative win-win-win that honors everybody's needs and desires in this situation. And then we raise a more peaceful generation of human beings that don't feel like they were disrespected and um, unheard. The children that feel they are seen and felt and heard grow
Yep.
up to be wonderful human beings,
Exactly.
that versus the other option, they might actually become very distorted. And there's some research about the different dictators and psychopaths out there, that on the opposite spectrum. None of those people are listening to your podcast, right? But sometimes the extremes can help us find that balance, right? The
Yeah.
extreme disrespect of the child leads to narcissistic psychopaths,
Well, and
right?
not only that, it's really just everybody at the core of who we are. We wish to be seen. We wish to be like, we wish to know that we matter. And when we raise children in a way where they don't feel like they matter, then they're going to go through life not mattering other people, right? So it's I almost feel like if somebody were to want to be a parent someday, they should probably consider taking the Luminous Education Revolution course.
Wow, was definitely my intention, bringing together all these world-class wisdom keepers to take the audience onto this journey, is really the distillation that I wish I had even before conceiving my child.
Right.
Like, if I could go back in time and that's what I could really meditate on, inquire into, and understand deeply, I would so be like excited and wholeheartedly embracing this parenting journey, because you
Yes.
realize that it's pure joy and delight, and it's so much less work than the
Yes.
old way where you're trying to control your child and
Right. Right.
mold them into something. That's hard work versus observing deeply, being deeply present and listening and honoring and respecting their own path. It turns out every child comes to this planet with their own innate curriculum.
Yes.
Many people say, well, which curriculum do you follow if you guys are homeschooling? It's like, well, the curriculum that is inside each child. They will
Mhm.
show you if you give them a chance. What are
Yeah.
they passionate about? They communicate very clearly, and they call them like rebellious, or they were so strong-willed, or whatever. They label the children like, that toddler is so strong-willed. No, that toddler told you exactly what they need in this moment.
And
It's
what's
just
interesting is like the way that their own soul curriculum unfolds roots us in the presence, like the present, because you need to be present in order to see what's unfolding, rather than trying to future think and trying to plan for something that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, the typical thing of what you're talking about is how they love to ask kids, like, "Hey, kid, what are you gonna be when you grow up?"
Right.
A lot of these kids, they like look at the adults like, "What do you mean? What? I'm somebody now. Why do I have to like wait until I'm grown up to be
Right.
somebody? What kind of an absurd question is that?"
It
You know?
is really absurd. And also another absurd thing is I feel like it's such a shame that we only, when we speak to children, it only is in terms, generally speaking, of what grade they're in. What grade are you in? How's school? Right? We're so much more than that. And how
I'm
come we're
working
not?
on some children's books about this that is going to be so
Oh,
fun. And
good.
one of them is going to talk about these kinds of absurdities, like strange questions that adults ask us.
Yeah.
Like such as, what are you going to be when you grow up, and what grade are you in? Which,
Yeah.
when you ask a homeschooler, is especially funny to ask, because like, it's like, well, I think that I'm not really sure, but like my kid does math on
Yeah.
khanacademy.com, and so he's aware what level math he is. And then we don't do like we don't really follow curriculums, but in terms of like practicing handwriting and making sure there's some spelling skills and all of this. Like obviously reading, writing, being literate and being numerate is, if you choose to homeschool, it is important. However,
Mm.
the timing of it varies widely, hugely.
So,
The
yeah.
self-directed learning research shows that children naturally click into reading at age 2 until age 14. It's a giant range. And
Giant
so
range.
our kid naturally clicked into reading at 8.5, which from age 5 to 8.5, all the friends and family are like, wait, shouldn't they be reading by age 5? Shouldn't they? And then,
No.
yeah, so
No,
anyway,
they should be
grade
playing.
stuff, our kids are like loosely aware. They're like, well, when I play this video game, I'm at this level. When I play that video game, I'm at this level. And then on Khan Academy, I'm at this grade. And then with the workbooks for the spelling, I think I'm at this grade. And like, it's like all over the map.
I love it. I love it. And it's all irrelevant.
Yeah, and then so it just and then well, what's funny is that when you get into a situation where an adult asks one of these kids a question like this, then the adults' minds go and you can see like it's like cracking. You can almost
Right.
like hear the limitation programs, the old like rigid public school limitation programs are like breaking. And there's like an audible sound you can see and this look on their face like you know so then the adults are like, oh, okay, I get it. Okay, what are you
Right. Then they
into?
like turn
The
away and
kids,
stop talking to them because they just don't know what to say.
well, these kids are so they're such love bugs though that they say it with this like with an energy of unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so that's where the biggest activism can happen. It's just us being ourselves and these little
Yeah.
dialogues in the community. The adults are like, oh, okay, well, what are you into? And then the kids will
Right.
tell you about swimming or biking or rollerblading or whatever. And then it's like, yeah, let's get back to those things. Like, what do
Yeah.
you love to do with your life? What are your favorite hobbies and what's fun for you? And it's like the kids are like, okay, now we're talking.
Right. And they'll talk forever.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like not afraid to talk to whatever age because we're talking about something interesting.
Yeah. So this is actually that's a really good point because naturally I think we congregate around other people that have similar interests.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect of what I've really come to appreciate is like in the school system we're forcibly put into these classrooms that are based on just your data manufacturer. Whereas
Yeah.
you're not like congregating with groups of like-minded, like spirited, like interest groups,
Mhm.
whereas when we do soccer, it's it's an age range.
Yeah.
When they're little, I appreciate because their body size is good to have some age segregation involved, but
Right.
they're all the kids are there because they love soccer, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
then when we do music, all the kids are there for music. And when it's mixed age, then there's this beautiful dynamic that unfolds where the bigger kids will be like, oh, do you need help carrying this?
Ah.
Maybe, the
Yeah.
little kids are like geniuses and they are so much more creative and they come up with
Yes.
like the funnest like ideas that nobody else would think of, and that there's this beautiful dynamic that plays out when you have mixed age playful learning environments for
Yeah.
them. And
Mixed
I'm
age is so important. It's so important for the older kids and for the younger kids because, like you said, you see in families where there's like two or more. The youngers, they're so much more intelligent because they're listening to the elders all the time, right? And then the elders, when they're with younger kids, I love to see how gentle they can be.
Yeah.
And just kind of slowing down and being present and mindful of the littles. And that's really lovely too.
Yes. I do want to go back to luminous education and to highlight a couple of other ones for the audience.
Yes.
One of it is my good friend John Chavez, who is a human potential researcher, and he
Mhm.
has a not-for-profit organization called DMT Quest. And so he does not have children. He's not an expert in education, but he is an expert in human potential. And so that's his entire life's work. And so I asked him to distill all of his research around young people on this topic. And he had a brilliant presentation around how the geniuses who've invented some of the paradigm shifting things, they're often known to have a way to induce a state where they can access genius level information. So there is alpha brainwave pattern, beta brainwave pattern, delta, gamma, these brainwave patterns that you've probably heard of. So with training, with meditation and different kinds of biofeedback style training, or like advanced Olympic level monks who've been meditating meditating for 40, 50 years, they can induce these states. But Thomas Edison was known to induce this thing called the hypnagogic state, I think it's called, where if he was struggling with a scientific problem with like an invention and he wasn't sure what the answer was, he would take a nap in this kind of like lazy boy type of setup. And he would have these two balls that if they drop on the ground, make a loud ring. So he would hold these two balls with his hands like downwards on the lazy boy chairs with his arms out like this, and he'd
Mhm.
fall asleep and drift into a nap, holding the inquiry of that question. And so just as he fall asleep, clink, the balls would fall down, he'd wake up and the answer would be there.
What? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so then another example is like the guy that discovered the periodic table that we all use in chemistry, that all came to him in a single dream, the whole thing. So he goes through all these examples about how cultivating our access to that state where that eureka moment, that epiphany comes in,
Mhm.
is super
Mhm.
important, and how our school system almost seemingly, like, this is where it sounds like, are you a conspiracy theorist? Where it's like, did they design it specifically to eliminate that in out of our human possibilities, the way that our schools are structured? Right. And so even down to like how many, I bet your audience, when you were a kid, didn't you love to daydream? And you were probably punished for it. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? That's another thing that I want to say, little boy, little girl, you were right. Daydreaming is so important. Daydreaming is how we grab, channel, and download and become a conduit of the most brilliant, genius, creative solutions.
Yeah.
And also, daydreaming is how we can image and manifest and create beautiful things into the physical reality. And so that makes you a very powerful being that cannot be controlled. And so maybe there's a reason why daydreaming was punished, because that make you don't get out of line. You're getting too powerful there. So that presentation really highlights how if we took a step back and said, what is the purpose of education? And, by extension, also parenting. If the
Mm.
purpose of education is not to indoctrinate infinite, expansive beings into like order following factory workers, well, what is it for? If education is for the cultivation and nurturing of our creativity, our genius, the expansion and blossoming of our human consciousness, if that's your orientation, then a lot of the sessions of our Luminous Education Revolution is going to be very powerful for you. But specifically, this one that John Chavez did, the research about how to specifically cultivate this aspect and design this into how we choose to nurture our children throughout the education journey. I think your audience is going to get a lot of juice. And he would, from his research, you could see that accessing that gamma state where that epiphany moment comes in your brainwave patterns, the research shows that it is very, very high for young children through age 5, and suddenly it dips at age 6. And there's no good reason for that, except that's when kids start going to first grade public school.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
John's hypothesis is that if you nurtured it, it would just keep going up and up and up and up.
Oh, for sure.
Because
For
they
sure.
find that with the Olympic level monk meditators is way high.
Mm-hmm.
They can intentionally induce these states because they've been cultivating it for decades. So it's just about how whether you choose to cultivate it or whether you don't cultivate it, but at least don't ruin it for the
Right.
kids. Like at
Right.
least try not to ruin it for the kids.
I would think like the daydreaming aspect probably can happen a lot when there's a bit amount of time for boredom, right?
Yes.
When your kids are doing nothing, like they're daydreaming and it's okay. We don't always have to be doing something.
Yeah, so I would argue the moms and dads out there listening, and I would say that I'm still deprogramming this part that is like wanting your kids to be really successful by scheduling tons of activities. Consider that at a certain point when you schedule so much that there's no breathing room for them to like drift back into that super open state of deep relaxation and daydreaming, that you are missing out on one of the most important components of a genius human.
Yeah.
That research shows that all kids calibrate at what is considered a genius level, like when they do tests, creativity tests for kids, and it just gradually tanks until basically they're quite dumbed down on average by the time they're 18 or 20. So
Right.
there's something that has gone horribly awry with education in our world that I'm sure this audience, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but
Right.
so there's like, we know what's not working. We know
Mhm.
what we don't want. What
Right.
Luminous Education Revolution is presenting is a holistic, multidimensional view of what
Could be.
it could be and what it already is for some
Yes.
families, such as
Right.
ours.
Yeah, it's an invitation to consider something different
Yeah.
and whatever would
Doesn't
resonate with you
claim
and
to
your
know all
family.
the answers, but it does claim to have a very holistic set of inquiries to bring
Mhm.
to the table. Like,
Right.
what is this life for? What does it mean to be a human? And therefore, what is education for? How do you define intelligence? What does holistic intelligence mean to you? All these questions, let's take a big step back and contemplate these deeply versus like rush into, well, I don't like this public school, so I'm gonna try to find this other school, and it's
Right.
not really changing the paradigm without
And
asking.
also just sort of operating within the same system that's already there, right? We're in a place now where we need to be courageous to do something completely different that we're not familiar with. And that's okay. And this is why you would engage in those questions, right? Because we've never really taken the time to stop and think, why do we send our kids to school? What are they learning and why? And what else is there out there, right? Human beings have so much potential and we're not accessing any of them just
Well,
yet,
we're
except for
accessing
some
some
people.
of them. I mean, it is to our credit. I went to regular school growing up. You and I turned out all right.
Same.
It didn't completely zap our ability to be free thinkers, or else we wouldn't be having this conversation here now.
Right.
So I want to honor and acknowledge this audience for the
Yeah.
courage to be a free thinker,
Yeah.
despite our upbringing. So
Right.
somewhere it's like that badassery was encoded in us to
That's right.
be here to ask those courageous questions. And
And it's encoded,
ultimately,
I would have to say it's encoded in all of us. It's just the degree of shutting down that we experience as we're growing up,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, you were just talking about human potential. So I want to also move into the course that you have for 5 to 12-year-olds called Blindfold Vision Training Course. And your child has been blindfold visioning since age 5.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah, super exciting. Okay, so when my kid was 4.5, I think, Yeah, 4.5, not even 5. That was when this interesting movie called Superhuman came out. And
Mhm.
as a longtime explorer of human consciousness and human potential, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Let's watch it. So I watched it together with my kid. And it featured a lot of expansive human potential of remote viewing and distance healing. And then it really focused on all these kids around the planet that have been trained and activated to be able to see completely blindfolded. So my boy is like, I think I can do that. Can we take a class? And so we took a little class, and within a few weeks, he was actually within the first class, he started seeing through his blindfold. It just got better and stronger and better and stronger as the sessions progress. And so the kids put on a blindfold and they start to you do some different breathing practices and eye exercises in a fun, kid-friendly way. Basically, in a fun, kid-friendly way, you're helping them tap into a deep meditative state where their intuition is quite heightened. And so the kids start to see through a little window and gradually another little window, and gradually the windows get bigger. And with practice, they can see more and more clearly, more and more precisely. So it unfolded that by the end of the series, he was reading a book, like completely reading the book. And then with a little more practice, he was able to see the little tiny alphanumeric codes underneath a barcode, like those small little numbers.
Whoa.
It was able to read those with precision. And some of the other kids are really, my kid is really good at seeing precisely and a little fuzzy with like seeing on the behind his head, but some of the other kids are like really good. They can see behind the head and in the other room and all this stuff. So gradually over time, a lot of the kids are getting really good at also remote viewing. But I want to bring this back to this isn't some party trick. What's really happening here is that we're encouraging our kids to really honor and attune to what does it feel like when you're simply guessing versus listening for that intuitive hunch. Like sometimes the kids we give a color sheet of paper and the kids are like, I don't know, is it blue or green? It's either blue or green. And we're like, okay, you're close. That's a hunch. Take a deep breath and look and just see. Don't guess, just look. And they're like, oh, it's green. I can see it. It's green, right? So with practice, we get really good at what does it feel like to just blindly guess versus to have an intuitive hunch versus to just know because you saw it and you know it. And what benefit does that ripple into for the rest of your life to have that activated, this knowingness
Yes.
so clear and so strong, this ability to see, you can't be BS'd by other people. You
No.
see right through all of this. Also, you know that what does it look like and feel like to drop into a meditative state where you know the answers
Mhm.
not by analysis, but instantaneous knowing. And
Yeah,
so I want to bring
it's your
this
higher
back.
self. You're
I'm
literally tapping into your higher self.
yes. So I want to bring this back to something as practical as math because I'm still going through a whole deprogramming process there. So I have a 9-year-old boy, and when he was just before he turned 7, he was, you know, 2 weeks before he turned 7, we had noticed that he was pretty good at math. Because we would go to the market and he would calculate how much the fruits and vegetables were going to cost. And I would just stay there and wait for him to calculate, do the arithmetic, and then give him the money to figure out how to like transact at the farmer's market. And so the farmers were always helping him out because sometimes he would get it wrong and they would teach him math. And then 2 weeks before he turned 7, he said, Mama, I think I'm pretty good at math. I'm like, yeah, let's go on Khan Academy and do some math if you like. And so he had fun, and so he in 2 weeks he did all of first grade and all of second grade. So that's when I was like, okay, well, this whole self-directed life schooling, unschooling thing that we are trying, it seems to be working. You know, he's 7 years old, and he just by living life, he already has 100% gotten what the school system would say is first and second grade math. So we started doing a little bit of third grade math, took a break because it was a little hard for him. Then we went back in and he like got through it pretty quickly. And then fourth grade, and he did all of fifth grade in 1 month. So by the time he
Wait,
turned
he's still 7
8,
at this time.
yes. So On his 8th birthday, he had completed 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade math. During the year that he was 8, he did all of 7th grade and 8th grade, and so now he's doing algebra 1. I'm saying all of this because I'm noticing that when the math got hard, I don't know if it was the blindfold vision training or it's hard to tell, right? But there is something there where he naturally would squirm his body, flop around. Sometimes he'd hang himself upside down, but he would go like roll his eyeballs up as if to like grab, channel the answers in. So my Asian helicopter mom comes up. I'm like, honey, you're spacing out. Are you daydreaming? I still have that tendency, right? And then I catch myself because I'm like, you should focus harder. No, he gets into a dreamy, meditative state. And he says, Mama, I'm grabbing the answer from space. And then
Oh
he
my
knows the
gosh.
answer, and then he back engineers the step because I'm like, well, in math, it's kind of important to show the steps. So let's show the steps too, even though, yes, your answer is correct. Like he just knows the answer. And so I'm not saying everyone that does blindfold vision will end, but you will see something strange and fascinating and magical like this as a byproduct of cultivating the child's intuitive gifts, because we all have these gifts, and my vision and my goal is to make this so rampant
Yes.
that this is we fully
Yeah.
remember, adults and kids alike, we remember that this is just our authentic natural state.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
who and what we all are, our ability to access all the information, to have our intuitive capacity fully awakened, our inner knowingness so deeply aligned so that when we need to make a tough decision in life, we can also lean on this ability. Like I already know the answer. I know what's right for me. And nobody can lie to me because I can see right through all that bullshit. Like that's the real gem of doing a
Yes.
training like this. And it sure is fun to see your child see right through a blindfold and read a whole book completely blindfolded, or see a child running around in the backyard kicking a soccer ball completely blindfolded because they literally can see right through it. But the
The
really
impact,
deep
though.
gifts is like this access to the
Yeah.
deep knowingness and access to truth,
Yes.
undistorted truth.
The impact is the impact for a child between the age of 5 and 12 is so vast because they'll always remember that, right?
Yes.
And they'll always be able to go back to it. And if they keep practicing it year after year, and whenever they get a moment, they're still exercising that part of them. And then they grow up to just be more illuminated, luminous humans.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a bit like, okay, should your child learn how to swim? You don't have to. You can function in life without swimming, but isn't life just there's a whole dimension of possibilities that opens up for you now. If you know how to swim now, you can play water sports, you can have more fun at the beach, you can go
Mhm.
canoeing, you can go,
Scuba
surfing.
diving.
Yeah, there's whole worlds upon worlds that opens up, so it's up to you how you want to take full advantage of your ability to swim, right?
Right.
Likewise, this is the same thing. It's like once this is activated, worlds and worlds of possibilities are not now available to you and your family. So I highly recommend it.
Me too. I highly recommend it. I haven't taken it. I can't take it because I'm not 5 or 12.
Yeah, so specifically the structure is as follows. It's a 6-week journey. The first and sixth session are parents coaching sessions. So
Mhm.
there's some prep work before and also afterwards for us to all have some time to discuss and share the excitement and the magical journey that we just went through, and also have a space for us to ask questions. And then all the graduating families are added to a Telegram group where we continue to support each other. The core 4 sessions, there's 4 45-minute classes that are with the kids, and the parents are active co-facilitators. So we are facilitating your child's activation journey together with you live on Zoom during that 45 minutes. And these are very small groups. Each section can only have 4 children because we give really deep one-on-one time to all the kids, one at a time, and then together as a group. So it's a total 6-week journey, and so far we've had 100% success rate with every kid,
Wonderful. I
every
mean, no
family.
doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
We're only just tapping into our own innate possibilities. Now, when does this next one start?
The next series starts September 8th because that
Okay.
first weekend of September is Labor Day weekend here in the US. So we wanted
Yeah.
to start the second week. And then the parents coaching classes, and there's 2 sections that are on Sundays. And then
Mhm.
because there's so much demand, we're also having another 2 sections that are on a Thursday afternoon.
Cool.
All the information will be on the webpage. I trust you
Mhm.
can put it in the description.
I'll put it in.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my
Thank you for
gosh, that's
giving me
just so much
a
fun.
chance to share this really exciting resource with like-spirited, free-thinking families. It's also the other piece about this is that the types of families that get attracted to a program like this, oh my gosh, the moms and dads are amazing. So just to be in community with these kinds of really human pioneers
Yeah,
that's a gift all by itself.
absolutely. I mean, we just keep growing our like minds, right? And connecting across the US, across the globe. It's important. It's important that we just love on our kids and pay attention to them and give them all the access to their remembering as best that we can, and it takes a
Which
lot of
is
deprogramming.
also our remembering,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a gift. And in the old world, I feel like our parents were always, all the previous generations were always doing the best they could. But
Mhm.
that old paradigm was so much about like how can we mold our children and indoctrinate them into what we know to be best for them. And
Right.
now we have the possibility of not necessarily letting our children tell us everything, but there's like to see them as equal,
Yeah.
to respect them equally. And so they're here to up level us, right? And then
Right.
when we give our children this kind of respect, they also respect us back. Like,
Right.
for example, this just this week, for example, I was heating up some soup. There's an organic store in town that makes like pre-made, really delicious pre-made soups that would take forever for me to make at home. So I just buy them pre-made and I heat them up. They're kind of thick, so I add some water or broth to thin them out. And my boy said, "Mama, are you adding a little too much water and broth?" I'm like, "I think this is just the right amount. So once it starts simmer, it will dehydrate a little bit and be just the right consistency." And you know what he said? He said, "Mama, you've been on planet Earth longer than me, so I'll trust you on this one."
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's kind of like the I was I took a beat there. I was like, yeah, that is the richness and beauty of the relationship that we can cultivate, where
Mhm.
because I respect our children so much and they can feel that, they also respect us so much.
Yeah.
They get that I look to them to kind of expand my horizon and see things from new perspectives. And they look to me for, well, how do things really work on Earth? Like, how does
Mhm.
the society work? Like, you've been here decades longer than me. And they'll ask questions like, how does this work? And they trust me. They respect me.
Right.
So when a lot of times people are like, well, how do you quote get your kids to do X? And it's just like, well, I just recommend it. I just say, hey, I recommend this. And they just do it. There's no tension around it,
Right. Right.
because I
There's
think,
that reciprocity.
yeah, there's no like, if you don't do this, you'll be grounded. Oh my goodness. They're like,
I
no,
know.
grounded. The kids are so funny. These conversations with the kids are so funny and it's so healing for me, because I had a very different upbringing growing up. Yeah.
Right. Right. Did you have to like kneel in the bathroom in the dark as punishment? I did.
Well, I had a different oh, I wanted to finish this podcast on a high note. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff in my upbringing for sure. And I
Oh
can laugh
man.
about it now because we're in a new time now, and
Totally.
I'm so grateful for the resources and support systems that I had to heal all of that trauma so that I can actually be in a place where I laugh about those things and just have tenderness in my heart for our parents' generation who were just doing what
They worked so hard.
they were told to suppress their own hearts. They're like, "I'm I'm spanking you because it's for your own good." And
Yeah.
all of this, like, how heartbreaking is it for them?
Right. Right.
So all of those things, I just feel so much love and compassion for all the previous generations who brought us to this moment now where we can let go of all of that baggage and be authentically
Yeah.
relating with our children and deeply
Right.
mutually respectful of each other. There's a whole way more beautiful way to experience parenthood.
There is. It's so wonderful. We were having so much fun. Thank you so much. That was so wonderful and uplifting.
Thank
And I
you for
can't
being
wait for
such an
people to
awesome
discover.
interviewer.
I can't wait for people to discover the blindfold vision training, and also for so many people to go and download the Luminous Education Revolution so that we can work now before we have kids. They have kids to just deprogram.
Mm-mm.
Thank you.
Thank
Did you
you.
have anything else you wanted to add?
Just thank you for all the friends that are tuning into this conversation and choosing to experience this life in this unconventional way. And ultimately, this is where all of mankind, we're all going in this direction. And I just honor everyone for the courage to be the first wave pioneers to embody this and
Mhm.
to anchor this into our communities, into our families. And this is not just for us, although each of us as adults, we benefit hugely from living in this more rich, authentic, and beautiful way, but is for all the future generations. So
Right. All
thank
the future generations and to live in reverence for all beings.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Have
Bye.
a
You want
good
to say bye?
weekend.